Why do 9 out of 10 traders blow up before they even start making real money? It's not because they're dumb, it's not because they're lazy. It's because the entire game is designed to seduce your ego and destroy your discipline. You think it's about strategy. You think the next course, the next indicator, the next setup is the fix. But it's not. The real war isn't on your screen. It's inside your mind. This isn't motivational fluff. These are the uncomfortable truths that most traders never hear until it's too late. The insane truth? You don't blow up your account, you blow up yourself. Let's begin.
Like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a drop.
The myth of the strategy. Everyone thinks trading starts with a strategy. Bollinger Bands, moving averages, Fibonacci levels, you name it. The marketplace of methods is endless. Every YouTube video, every Discord server, every overpriced course promises one thing. This setup works. You're sold on the idea that if you just find the right system, the profits will follow. So you start testing. Maybe it's a breakout strategy, waiting for candles to close above resistance. Maybe it's pullbacks to the 21 EMA. Maybe it's RSI crossing 30. You backtest, you watch videos, you paper trade, and then you deploy it with real capital. And at first, it works. A green streak, small wins, confidence builds. Then it happens. A few trades fail back to back. You start tweaking. You change the time frame. You adjust the stop loss. You add a second indicator to confirm the first. But now the system's messy. You don't trust it anymore. So you go back on YouTube, search for another edge, another secret, another 1-minute strategy that prints money with zero drawdown. And just like that, you're not trading. You're hunting again. You become a collector of strategies, but a master of none. Let's get something straight. Most strategies do work, but not in the way you think. The market isn't a machine that spits out profits when you press the right buttons. It's a chaotic, probabilistic environment. Even the best systems lose, often. And if you expect perfection, your emotions will sabotage your execution long before the market does. Let me give you a brutal truth. A mediocre trader with emotional control will outperform a brilliant analyst who breaks their rules every time. Actionable insight. Why simple trend tools beat complex systems. You want a usable framework? Keep it simple. Use a 20 EMA and 50 EMA trend filter. If price is above both and rising, only take longs. If price is below both and falling, only take shorts. You're not forecasting, thus you're filtering noise. Now layer in one price action trigger, break and retest of structure, inside bar breakout, wick rejection at support, resistance, 2 conditions. That's it. If you need 6 indicators to trade, it's not a strategy. It's a stall tactic, a way to delay the emotional pain of being wrong. But you will be wrong. Every good system has drawdowns. The key isn't to eliminate losses, it's to stay alive through them. What you really need isn't a better strategy. You need to stop breaking the one you have. Ask yourself, do you take setups that your plan doesn't allow just because you're bored or chasing? Do you move stops because you feel it'll reverse? Do you switch systems the moment your emotions feel tight? If yes, that's the problem, not your system. Common mistake to avoid, strategy. Hopping during drawdowns. This is where most traders kill their own edge. They test a system for 5 trades, get a losing streak and abandon it. They forget that a strategy's edge only plays out over dozens, even hundreds of trades. If your plan has a 50% win rate and a 1.2 risk-reward ratio, you don't judge it on 3 trades. You judge it on 100. But you don't last that long because your emotions get louder than your data. You lose a trade, and your belief in the system weakens. You win a trade, and your ego swells. You're trading you, not the strategy. And that's the real danger. The insane truth about trading strategy is this: it matters far less than you think. It needs to have an edge. Yes, it needs risk control. But beyond that, the difference isn't in the setup. It's in the trader. You can give 2 traders the same system. One will follow it. Record every trade. Respect drawdowns. Size positions correctly. The other will tweak it. Skip setups. Double size after losses. Panic during consolidation. Same tools, same charts, different outcomes. Because strategy is the frame. But you are the lens. If you want to make trading work, stop asking, what's the best strategy? Start asking, how can I become the kind of person who can execute any good strategy with consistency, clarity, and patience? That's the real edge, and very few ever build it. Emotional damage is the real loss. Most traders think their biggest losses are financial, but over time, if you look closely, the real wounds are emotional. It's not just the red on your PL that breaks you, it's what it represents to you. The loss feels like rejection, like failure, like proof that maybe you were never meant to succeed. The moment your stop loss is hit, it's not just a number on a screen, it becomes a voice in your head. You're not good enough. You should have waited. You always screw it up. This is the hidden tax of trading. Not commissions, not spreads, not slippage. It's the silent erosion of confidence. And when it happens enough, you don't just fear losing trades. You fear trading itself. You hesitate. You second guess. You freeze in front of the setup you studied for hours and watch it run without you because you don't trust yourself anymore. This is what no one tells you when you start. That trading will expose every insecurity you've buried, every need for control, every wound from your past. Every part of you that can't handle uncertainty will rise to the surface, because this game isn't about predicting the market, it's about regulating your reactions to it. Let's get real. Have you ever placed a trade, not because it met your plan, but because you just needed to feel something? Have you ever added size, not because of logic, but because you were angry, trying to make back what you lost? Have you ever avoided entering a setup because you were still carrying the weight of the last mistake? This is emotional damage. It doesn't show up on your trading journal, but it drives every poor decision you make. One of the most dangerous illusions in trading is thinking that a winning trade is a good trade. Sometimes the market rewards bad behavior. You break your rules, over-leverage, get lucky, and make a profit. But what it actually does is reinforce the worst parts of your mindset. It teaches you that discipline is optional until the day it's not, because that same impulsive habit will show up again, but this time the market won't be so kind. And the loss won't just hit your account. It will hit your identity. You'll ask yourself why you keep doing this, why you always sabotage yourself right when you're about to break through, and you'll realize the truth. The damage isn't just from losing, it's from never learning how to lose well. Professional traders don't avoid losses. They expect them. They're emotionally insulated, not because they're cold, but because they've trained themselves to separate outcome from self-worth. Every trade is just data. Every loss is feedback. But for the emotionally untrained trader, every red candle becomes personal. Every drawdown feels like judgment. And slowly, the account isn't the only thing that gets depleted. Your energy drops. Your belief fades. Your love for the game turns into something bitter. There's a phrase most traders don't understand until it's too late. It's not the losing that breaks you. It's what you make the loss mean. This is why you must build emotional resilience like a skill, like risk management or chart analysis. It has to be practiced, consciously, repeatedly. You need rituals that reset you, a journal that doesn't just log trades, but logs emotional patterns. You need recovery days, walks, quiet, systems of pause. Because if you keep trading through emotional fog, you will create chaos, not because of the market, but because you are carrying pain you refuse to process. The truth is, most blown accounts start long before the actual liquidation. They start with unresolved emotional damage. A trader breaks their plan, takes a big hit, doesn't reflect, keeps going, fueled by shame or ego, and when it all collapses, it looks like one big mistake. But it wasn't. It was 100 small ones. 100 signals ignored. 100 internal warnings drowned out by noise. If you want to survive in this game, not just financially but mentally, you have to take emotional pain seriously. Learn to lose without self-destruction. Learn to pause without guilt. Learn to protect your confidence like capital. Because once that breaks, you don't just need a new strategy, you need a new self. Nobody teaches you pain management. Everyone talks about risk management. Keep your losses small. Use a stop loss. Only risk 1% per trade. And yes, those rules are important. But there's something no one ever teaches you: how to manage the pain that comes with doing the right thing and still losing. Because that's what trading is, making rational decisions in an emotional environment. You can follow your plan perfectly and still take a loss. And when that happens, it hurts. Not because you broke your rules, but because you didn't and you still lost money. This is the kind of pain that builds quietly. It's not loud like a blown account. It's subtle, slow, corrosive. You start asking questions. Why did I even take that setup? Why didn't I wait? Why does this always happen to me? But here's the truth: most traders never confront. The market doesn't owe you a win just because you followed the rules. Trading is not cause and effect, it's probabilities. And sometimes the best trade you'll ever take is still going to be a loser. So the real question becomes, can you take pain without turning it into self-punishment? Most traders can't. They revenge trade. They double size on the next position. They force a win to prove they're still good. But all of that is pain avoidance, not pain management. When you don't know how to process loss, you try to erase it with action. Click more, trade faster, increase size. And in doing so, you disconnect from your process and reconnect to your pain. There's a phrase you'll hear seasoned traders use: "I'm flat and in pain." It means they're out of the market, no position open. But their mind is still burning. The damage wasn't financial, it was internal. And this is where most traders begin to spiral. Because when you're emotionally bruised, your vision narrows. You stop seeing setups clearly. You stop reading price objectively, you become reactive, trading to soothe, not to execute. It's like trying to do surgery with shaking hands. You might still know what you're doing, but you can't trust your movements anymore. So what's the solution? It's not more education. It's not a new entry technique. It's learning to feel pain and not let it control you. Because the pain isn't the enemy. Avoiding it is. There's value in sitting with discomfort, in pausing after a loss, in feeling the sting and choosing not to act on it. That's how you build emotional calluses. Not by avoiding losses, but by surviving them with discipline intact. Think about elite athletes. They train their bodies for stress, but also their minds. They know how to stay focused in discomfort, how to breathe through fatigue, how to keep their form even when it burns. That's what you need to do with your trading mind, because pain is inevitable in this game. But suffering, the kind that leads to self-sabotage, is optional. Most people never make that distinction, so they keep trying to win their way out of emotional pain. They keep chasing profits to heal internal wounds. But trading will never give you what you're not willing to give yourself. If you trade for validation, the market will humble you. If you trade to avoid pain, the market will become your punishment. But if you learn to manage pain, to feel it, to sit with it, to learn from it, then you become dangerous. Because now, you're no longer just executing a plan, you're mastering yourself. And in trading, that's the edge no one talks about. The comfort of losing. There's a strange truth no one likes to admit. Some traders are more comfortable losing than winning. It sounds absurd. Why would anyone prefer loss? But look closer. Look at your own patterns. Look at how you react, not to pain, but to success. When you lose, there's frustration, shame, disappointment, but it's familiar. It fits. It matches the stories you've carried for years, the ones that whisper, "You're not good enough," or "You always mess it up." So when you take a loss, it might hurt, but it feels like home, because somewhere deep down, failure confirms your identity. It doesn't challenge your comfort zone. It reinforces it. Now flip the script. You're in a winning streak. Things are working, you're executing your plan, your equity curve is climbing, your confidence is rising, and yet you feel restless, uneasy, suspicious. You start over-analyzing, over-trading, tightening stops, doubting entries, sabotaging the very momentum you built. Why? Because success feels dangerous when your nervous system is wired for struggle. If you grew up around chaos, if your early experiences taught you that peace never lasts, then winning becomes a threat, not a reward. It's unfamiliar. And what's unfamiliar feels unsafe, even if it's exactly what you say you want. So without realizing it, you unconsciously return to what feels more comfortable, losing, not catastrophic failure, but just enough to stay in the struggle, just enough to stay in the loop where you're always almost there, but never quite breaking through. That space becomes your identity. You're the grinder, the fighter, the one who keeps coming back stronger, but never quite gets it right. And on some level, staying in that identity feels safer than facing what success would demand from you. Because winning isn't just about executing trades. Winning forces you to receive, to accept growth, to take up space as someone who deserves to succeed. And for many traders, that's the real discomfort. Losing becomes easier because it lets you stay small. It gives you a story to cling to. It keeps the world predictable. If you win big, people might expect more. You might expect more of yourself. You might have to face the fear of losing after success. And that fear is far more terrifying than never succeeding at all. So you stay in the comfort of the middle. A few wins, a few losses, no real progress, just enough to feel like you're trying without risking the identity shift that true success would demand. Here's the brutal truth. Until you learn how to be comfortable with success, you will keep engineering loss. Not deliberately, not consciously, but subtly, through skipped rules, impulsive trades, unnecessary risk. You'll keep your equity curve from climbing too far, because at the top the fear is louder, the stakes feel higher, and you've never been taught how to feel safe in the unfamiliar. This is where the real work begins, not with another strategy, not with a better broker or faster execution speed, but with the part of you that's terrified of what happens if you actually win. Can you hold peace without feeling like it's going to be taken from you? Can you feel calm in profit without sabotaging it to prove that struggle is your default? You don't rise in this game by force. You rise by expanding your capacity to feel safe in a new identity. That starts with noticing when you're sabotaging yourself, when you're bringing back the chaos, not because the market demanded it, but because your nervous system needed it. And then choosing something different, one trade at a time, one decision at a time, until your baseline is no longer struggle, but stability, until loss becomes just data, not a return to your old identity. Because the truth is, many traders are not afraid to lose. They're afraid of what they'll have to become when they finally stop. The business you never treated like a business. Most traders talk about trading like it's a business. They say all the right things. This is just probabilities. I'm running this like a professional. It's not gambling. It's risk management. But if you looked at their daily habits, their process, their data, their discipline, you'd realize they're not running a business. They're feeding a habit. The harsh truth is this. You don't rise in trading because you read a book. You rise because you build systems and processes like an operator. If you owned a restaurant, would you change the menu every 2 days? Would you show up to work only when you felt motivated? Would you ignore your revenue, your margins, your losses? Of course not. But in trading, people do exactly that. They switch strategies weekly. They trade only when they feel good. They take trades they can't quantify, and then act shocked when their equity curve looks like a lie detector test. Because deep down, they're not treating this like a business. They're treating it like a rush. They're not system builders. They're sensation chasers. And if you don't take ownership of that, you'll keep spinning in circles, blaming the market for your own lack of structure. Here's the shift. When you start treating trading like a real business, everything changes. You stop asking, how do I win today? And start asking, what process do I follow every day, win or lose? You define your edge. You know your numbers. You track your metrics. You review your trades not to judge them, but to refine them. This doesn't mean you become robotic. It means you stop being chaotic. Because the most dangerous thing in trading isn't a bad trade. It's randomness, random entries, random exits, random risk, random logic. And randomness is the opposite of professionalism. You can't scale chaos. You can't build wealth on impulses. Every sustainable business has standard operating procedures. Why don't you? Where is your checklist? Where is your pre-market prep? Where is your weekly review? Where are your rules and how many times have you broken them this month? You see, it's not enough to be passionate about trading. You have to be committed to the boring stuff because What makes a trader profitable isn't brilliance, it's repetition. The ones who make it journal relentlessly, log data religiously, study losses without ego, wake up and execute their plan whether they feel like it or not. They're not guessing. They're running a business, and businesses don't grow by vibes. They grow by structure. So ask yourself, if you hired you to run your trading business, would you fire yourself after 30 days? Would you look at your records and say, this operator has a clear process, a consistent edge, and long-term focus? Or would you see a scattered mess of reactions and hope? Because that's what you're really building, a business of habits, a portfolio of decisions, a track record of how seriously you take your own potential. If you want to start winning, stop looking for secret setups. Start building a system you can follow with discipline, and then follow it with the consistency of a CEO showing up for payroll. That means one clear strategy, fixed risk rules, scheduled review blocks, documented metrics, emotional accountability. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be consistent enough to let the edge show up. Because here's the final truth. The trader who treats this like a hobby will always lose to the one who treats it like a business. Not because they're smarter, not because they're luckier, but because they have a system that can survive when emotions flare. And in this game, survival is the first requirement for mastery. If your trading doesn't have structure, it's just expensive entertainment. It might feel serious, but until you track it, review it, and build around it, it's not a business, and it won't pay you like one. The real edge is you. Everyone enters trading looking for an edge. They obsess over indicators, they chase signals, they tweak strategies for hours, thinking just one more filter, one more condition, and it'll all start working. But here's the brutal truth no one wants to say out loud. The edge is not in the strategy. The edge is you. Give a flawless system to an undisciplined trader, and it will lose. Give a simple average system to a focused, emotionally stable trader, and it can win over time. Because it's not the system that creates consistency. It's the human running it. People want trading to be objective, mechanical, formulaic. But trading is performance. It's behavior under pressure. It's execution when your nervous system is screaming at you to do the opposite. And that means your psychology, not your pattern, is the real engine behind your results. You are the only variable that's always present in every trade you take. Your fear, your greed, your need to prove something, your habits. That's the constant. You are the edge or the leak. Every trader thinks they can separate mindset from method. They think if the strategy is strong enough, it will override their emotions. But what happens? They break the rules, they cut winners short, they let losers run, they revenge trade, they hesitate, overtrade, undertrade, freeze. They become inconsistent not because the market changed, but because they changed when the heat turned up. And that's where the edge dies, not on the chart, but in the mirror. So what does it actually mean to make yourself the edge? It means you stop pretending trading is just technical. It's not. It's psychological warfare between your plan and your impulses. And to win that battle, you need internal clarity that runs deeper than the strategy. That means knowing what triggers your worst decisions, being brutally honest about your emotional weaknesses, developing routines that anchor your mindset before, during, and after trades, accepting that uncertainty is not the enemy. It's the terrain. This is where most traders fail. They believe mastery is about finding better trades, but mastery is actually about removing what makes you inconsistent. If you overtrade, your edge leaks. If you avoid pulling the trigger, your edge leaks. If you size up on impulse, your edge leaks. And every leak erodes your edge, drop by drop, until you're left with nothing but confusion. Let me say this clearly. You could give two traders the exact same strategy. One will make it work, the other will burn out. What's the difference? Not intelligence, not market knowledge, not luck. The difference is emotional maturity. The winning trader is self-aware enough to know when they're triggered, when they're overconfident, when they're making decisions to feel better, not trade better. They don't try to eliminate emotion, they learn to regulate it. That's the mark of a real edge. Not the perfect entry, not the highest RR, but the ability to execute your plan reliably under stress. That's where consistency lives. That's where profits scale. That's where the game turns from random to replicable. And the deeper truth? The market is a mirror. It doesn't punish you. It reveals you. It reflects your impatience, your fear, your attachment. It shows you exactly where you lack structure and exactly where you still don't trust yourself. So stop searching for a holy grail setup. Start becoming the kind of operator who can run any decent system with focus, discipline, and emotional integrity. Because when your inner world is clean, your outer execution becomes precise. And that's when you stop being a strategy collector and start becoming the edge. Rule-breaking patterns. You already know what to do. You've back-tested it. You've written it down. You've told yourself, this time I'll stick to the plan. But then the market opens. Your heart rate ticks up, and something in you takes over. You deviate, you hesitate, you chase, you freeze. And by the time the session ends, you're left wondering, why can't I just do what I said I'd do? Let's break that illusion now, because this isn't a problem of discipline. It's a problem of identity and safety. The lie of willpower. Traders love to believe that more willpower will fix their inconsistency. They white-knuckle the mouse. They grit their teeth and chant affirmations. But rule-breaking isn't about willpower. It's about unresolved emotional wiring. You're not breaking rules because you're lazy. You're breaking them because, at some deep subconscious level, following the rules doesn't feel safe. Think about it. When you follow your rules, you give up control. You surrender to uncertainty. You take the trade and let it play out, win or lose. But what if your nervous system can't handle that surrender? What if, deep down, your brain believes that control equals survival? In that state, rule-breaking isn't rebellion, it's protection. You overtrade to avoid stillness. You move your stop to avoid pain. You add to losers because loss feels like abandonment. It's not logical, it's emotional. And until you deal with the emotional source, the pattern will repeat, no matter how smart you are. The cost of micro-betrayals. Every time you break your own rule, even in a small way, you send a signal to your unconscious. I can't trust myself. And that matters, because trading is a trust game, not with the market, but with your own ability to execute without distortion. When trust erodes, fear takes over. You start tweaking your system, adding filters, hopping strategies, but the issue was never the edge. It was the execution path being corrupted by impulse. These small rule breaks? They add up, not just in lost capital, but in lost identity. You start to see yourself not as a professional, but as someone who always sabotages the final moment. And that belief becomes a script you follow again and again until it becomes your trading reality. The hidden payoff of breaking rules. Here's something that's hard to admit. Sometimes breaking your rules feels good. It creates a rush, a sense of agency, power, rebellion, especially if you've felt out of control in other parts of life. Following a rule feels like restriction. Breaking it feels like freedom. But that dopamine hit is short-lived, and over time, the cost gets heavier. One broken rule leads to 5. One impulsive trade leads to 2 hours of damage control. And now your trading plan isn't a map, it's a memory. So if you keep breaking your rules, ask yourself, what am I really getting out of this? What feeling does the rule break satisfy that the plan doesn't? Until you answer that honestly, you're not trading a system. You're playing out a coping mechanism, rebuilding the contract. The only way to stop breaking rules is to rebuild the contract with yourself. And that begins with small, deliberate wins. Not big profits, just moments of alignment. One session where you followed the plan, regardless of outcome. One trade where you sat in discomfort and did not interfere. That's how trust rebuilds. That's how the identity shifts. Because when you start becoming the kind of person who honors the plan, your performance begins to reflect that stability. Not overnight, but gradually and permanently. The market doesn't punish you for breaking rules, you do. And if you can understand why you break them, you can finally stop needing to. You don't need to be perfect, just aligned. If you've made it this far, you already know something most traders never realize. The real battle isn't with the market, it's with yourself. Every failed plan, every revenge trade, every time you broke your rules, it wasn't because you didn't know better. It was because something deeper inside you was pulling the strings. Fear, impatience, shame, the craving to win, the terror of losing again. That's what really moves your mouse. Not logic, not backtests, not edge. And that's why this game is so hard, because to master the market, you first have to master the parts of yourself that don't want to be mastered. The part that wants to escape responsibility, the part that wants the shortcut, the part that feels more alive when things are chaotic. But here's the hope. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to get honest, brutally honest, about your flaws, about your patterns, about the emotional wiring you bring to every session. Because once you see it, really see it, you can start changing it. And that's the edge no one can take from you. Not a firm, not a market regime, not an algorithm. It's built from the inside out. So next time you're tempted to tweak your system, ask yourself something deeper. Am I solving the strategy or avoiding myself? Because the truth is, you don't need 100 tools. You need one plan, and a version of you who can actually follow it. That's the trader you're building now. Keep going.
If you found this helpful, hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a drop. Got thoughts or questions? Leave a comment below. I'm always checking in. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.